You've seen what's in my bag, you've seen all of my Macs and iPads, but you've never been fully introduced to the most important desk in this studio. During a recent studio tour, which I'll link to above in case you missed it, I revealed the sheer number of desks that I have in this room. There are two reasons I have so many desks in here. The first one is because FlexiSpot, the people behind those desks, are kind enough to keep sending them to me for review. And the second one is because you can never have too many desks for shooting footage of the products you're reviewing, or at least that's my excuse. There is, however, one desk in here that is the most functional and arguably the most important to this brand. It's where the bulk of the creative work takes place, and I'd like to give you a proper tour of it today. Before we get started, a quick word from today's sponsor, which is Trend Micro and their brilliant Premium Security Suite. So if you're looking for a complete all-in-one solution for device and identity protection in your home, this could be your knight in shining armor. Premium Security Suite includes a VPN, password manager, mobile security, ID security, and protection against ransomware, email scamming, and other forms of cybercrime. It works across Windows, macOS, Android, iOS, and Chromebooks, therefore your entire family can get involved. What's more, installation is super straightforward, and there's also 24/7 human support included should you need any help from Trend Micro. And like all of Trend Micro stuff, which I use personally, each of these applications is super easy to set up, and I just love the fact it's a one-stop shop for everything you need to remain safe online. There's been no corners cut either, it's all top-notch stuff. For instance, I'm a big fan of their VPN in particular, which secures my internet traffic no matter where I am. So if you're in a coffee shop and want a safer experience on their Wi-Fi network, or you just want to be sure that your kids' smartphones are always protected from the dark web, Premium Security Suite is there for you. Whenever I accept a sponsorship on this channel, it's from companies that I know and trust, and Trend Micro have been with me for quite a while now. I love their software. You will love Premium Security Suite. And to find out more, just click the link in my description. So whenever I'm in this studio, this desk, not this one is the desk at which I spend the most of my time. I've nicknamed it the production desk because it's where I create most of the videos for this channel, like this one. But you'll also find me either standing or sat at that desk when I'm editing photos for thumbnails, publishing blogs, and occasionally editing the 8 or 16 podcast. Sometimes I'll write at it, and now and then I'll even conduct a Zoom call from the production desk. But that's about it. For that reason, I try and keep it as clean and tidy as possible, and I reserve the workbench in the corner of the room for making a mess while setting up cameras and preparing review units. So if we start with the desk itself, as I mentioned earlier, I've got several FlexiSpot standing desks, and this is probably my favorite one so far. It's called the EG8, and it's a multifunctional standing desk with programmable height presets. It's also got integrated USB charging, both Type A and Type C. And like every FlexiSpot desk I've used so far, it is super easy to put together. With this one, you don't need any tools at all because it just comes with an Allen key. That's it. And I particularly love the aesthetics of this white version with the tempered glass on top, although it is a bit of a fingerprint magnet, which is a bit of a pain. Despite that, everything else is great about this desk. It's got super smooth motors, it's got anti-collision detection, so if you leave something under the desk and start lowering it, it will stop itself before crushing that thing. It's not the biggest desk in the world, but that's actually a benefit because in this case, like I mentioned before, I want to keep it as clean and tidy as possible. And that's further helped by the integrated drawer that you don't get with the other FlexiSpot desks that I've got. Now, if I'm sat at that desk, I use this chair, which I'm sat on now, which is an IKEA Marcus, and I get lots of comments about this chair. I've had this, I think, for over 10 years, and it's still fantastic. I think you can still buy it today. If you can, I'll put a link in the description, but it's just a brilliant performer, and it's a fraction of the cost of a Herman Miller chair, which every other YouTuber seems to have, but I, for one, don't want to spend that much money on a chair, and also, there's nothing wrong with this one. So this is my chair of choice for both these videos and the production desk. Right, moving on to the computer, the powerhouse for this desk setup is my brilliant 16-inch MacBook Pro. Mine is the M1 Max version. I've spec'd it up with 32 gigabytes of unified memory, 32 cores of GPU, and a 2 terabyte SSD. That weighed in at over £3,500, making it a very big investment for this business, but it is one that I aim to eke the most performance and productivity out of over the next few years. Now, I won't ramble on about it anymore in this video because I talked about it quite a lot in a recent video, which I'll link to above. The MacBook Pro is connected to an Apple Studio display, and this is the version with the normal stand and without the nano texture screen thing. Now, no matter what people say, it is quite simply a 5K iMac with a slightly brighter display, a worse webcam than the iMac Pro, weirdly, and, well, no computer bit attached. Despite that, it does look lovely, admittedly, on this white desk in particular, and it performs fantastically. I don't really have anything against the Studio display in terms of a display. It's a great performer. I have just had one slight issue with it recently, which is the speakers, which momentarily stopped working for a few days. They just kind of cut out and ceased to exist. They've come back now and they seem to be okay, but touch wood, I'll keep an eye on that and report back. But it is a solid performer and a fantastic companion for the MacBook Pro, particularly when you consider that I'm just using one cable between the MacBook Pro and the monitor for power and feeding the image. Now, cheaper and similarly capable monitors are out there, but there's no doubting that Apple has got the 5K display thing completely sewn up at the moment. And for me, even though it was very expensive and it is quite difficult to recommend, I just love it on that desk. It's such a good monitor for my production desk. Onto the accessories, and as mentioned earlier, there is not a lot of stuff on this desk, as you can see here, but that is for good reason. Firstly, we have the Beyerdynamics DT770 Pro headphones, which I bought last year and which replaced my aging KRK monitor headphones. I've got them over here. For years and years, probably about 15 years actually, these were my kind of production headphones for all sorts of things. They're superb and they still work absolutely fine, but they are falling to bits, so they had to go, and the DT770s are superb. Then we have my 2018 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which is resting on the awesome MagFlow stand. This stand won the battle of the iPad stands in a recent video, which I'll link to above, and it is the best way to position the iPad Pro as a second monitor. Now, I use it sparingly as a second monitor these days. That iPad is actually mainly home to Brain.fm, which I use to retain focus when I'm doing non-video editing stuff such as writing. Now, when it comes to input devices, I'm forever swapping keyboards. That's why there's so many dotted around here. But I've rested once and for all, I think, on the Keychron K2. This is an awesome little keyboard. It offers the perfect balance, I think, of comfort, travel, and that satisfying clickety-clackety noise, and the feel is great as well. It's also small enough not to take up too much room on the production desk. Then we have the Logitech MX Master 3, which you are probably so bored of hearing about on this channel. I don't care, I love it. If you haven't got one, if you haven't tried one, if you do any kind of production work, if it's video editing, audio editing, or if you just want a nice mouse, I really highly recommend it. It's a bit more expensive than other mices, but trust me, it's worth the investment. And both the keyboard and the mouse sit on a Satechi desk mat, which is comfortable, inexpensive, and I think looks pretty nice. And lastly, there's my ever reliable SanDisk Extreme SSDs. I've been using these pretty much since I started this channel to edit videos in Final Cut Pro. I've actually got 3 of these now. There's 2 1TB versions and 1 2TB version. One acts as home for my Final Cut Pro library and any footage I'm currently working on. One is for all of my archived videos and podcasts, and the other is a spare just in case I need any more space. So what about future plans? Well, I am super happy with this desk setup, but there is one thing I've got on my mind, which I can't shake away from my mind, which is backups. At the moment, I do have a backup system in place, but it's a bit ragtag. It's a little bit all over the place. So basically, the main duty for backing up is being fulfilled by the NAS functionality on my fancy Synology Wi-Fi router over there. I made a video about this recently, which I'll link to above, but I do need more redundancy and, crucially, more space for all of this content that I'm creating. Thankfully, I have something on the way that will solve this big time, so make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to avoid missing that video. And if you missed my recent full studio tour, keep watching for a link to that video.